Hello, welcome back to WTSF, where I answer questions from the Street Fighter Reddit with real-world examples. I find the common theme for the week on Reddit, you then vote in this poll on Twitter as to which one you want to see more of, and then I make a video based on that theme. This week, by popular demand, we have learning to lose as the topic. First question from Fritz Panther, new player looking for advice. Hello, I'm a new person to fighting games. I've heard from people that the best way to play is just to play online matches as much as possible. Is there anything else I should know about the game to help me be better? Any advice is appreciated. Thank you. Not the best time to be saying it, of course, but the best place to learn is definitely if you can find a local club, or at the very least a training partner to practice with. The reason being that when you get real-time feedback from somebody that you're playing against, explaining to you what you're doing wrong, why they're beating you and how they're beating you, you then develop your game second by second rather than match by match. And you can't miss any of the answers because they're put there right in front of you. If you don't have a local scene, you can still get this online. Join in a Discord, run in lobbies with other players. They'll be more than happy to give you advice. Try to find people on a similar skill level to you so they can explain things back to you in a language that you understand. And yeah, through either of those methods, playing as many games as possible is exactly what you need to do. That, of course, is very different from just going online and just playing match after match after match after match. You'll find plenty of Ryu and Ken players still sitting in bronze and silver after 3-4 years, still doing the same cross-ups into the same Season 1 combos, and they're quite happy. But if you want to develop yourself, you have to go in every single match trying to apply something that you've learned from your last losses. That's why a training partner or local or online support is really, really important, because you're always in that mindset of, right, I can't lose to that again because these people are watching me and they've told me how to beat that. So try to find people and make connections. If you can't do that and you have to play against other people online, just try to run those cycles in your head of what did I do wrong and how do I not do that in the next match. And after that match, did I do the thing I said I was going to do? Next question by Ronald Bishu. Manage and risk better within the game. Hello, lately I've been playing quite a bit of Street Fighter 5 and Grand Blue Fantasy Versus and feel like I've plateaued within both games. But I feel it isn't a matter of consistency or dropping combos, it's just pure bad guesswork. I pressure my opponent and they DP abruptly either on wake up or while I'm applying pressure. My opponent pressures me and I DP and I get punished or I grabbed over and over. Then I'm caught pressing buttons. You know the gameplay loop I'm talking about. So this is a common mistake that I've seen in players regardless of their skill set, which is that when something happens and it doesn't go their way, they immediately don't attribute that failure to themselves. It's very easy to get hit with a dragon punch on their wake up and go, oh well, I guessed wrong, there's nothing I can do about that, right? That's 50-50, they chose to do that, they could have not done that. But if that was the case and it was purely up to chance, you wouldn't see the same people winning over and over again and consistently getting good reads in the same way that they do. This is a 2017 match between TKR and Incognitus, and I remember speaking to Incognitus a little ways after this tournament and asking him about this wake up super that he does here, again because you go, well, that's chance, isn't it? And it was one of those moments where I realised just how far behind I was in the mindset versus a lot of these professional players. And what he told me was he does wake up super here because he wanted to see what TKR would do. So he was using that freeze frame animation to see what moves TKR was doing in his meaty at that exact moment in that corner setup in game 1, round 1. And that would tell him quite a lot of information very early on in the match as to how he needed to treat the OP. This led to an even more aggressive second round from Incognitus, because he was able to first identify a behaviour in TKR in the first round and then see if there was a change in that behaviour in the second round, and that told him exactly what he needed to do in that match. And that was such an aggressive round that it actually led to this pretty incredible rage quit in tournament on stage, which you don't see often in Street Fighter 5. That's just how much in his head he was able to get in a couple of rounds from a couple of very aggressive actions. So not all critical arts or dragon punches are created equal in that sense. Another very common one here in Fujimura versus Luffy in 2018. You'll see that what Luffy tends to do is he starts with a charge dropkick into a throw. Now that's one of his safest options, and again, the only reason he's doing that is to see what they're going to do because it's very recoverable for him and very low risk. Here later in the same round you can see Luffy doing a charge dropkick and then backing off entirely, and that's because again he wants to see what's changed. So as much as a lot of these things feel like random guesswork, there's a lot of inspection and adaptation that goes on as part of them. If you're dashing up to someone and getting dragon punched every single time, sure, it might feel like a guess the first time round. The second time that you run at that DP, is it still a guess? The third time that you run into the DP, is it still a guess? If you're not using that as data to get a read on the kind of things that they do in them scenarios, and you're not reacting to that, yes, it's random, but that's because you've allowed it to be random. Your opponent's not going to feel guilty if every single time you try to meaty them and every single time they know that and they stuff that. Next one by GamerZeek2019. Trying to learn Street Fighter 5, but the game is just annoying online and I don't know how to progress. I'm just looking for advice to improve and the best characters I can use to learn the basics. Also the best way to beat projectiles. The number of players I go against just spam Shoryuken and then grab me if I ever get close. I understand for better players it's easy to just say get good, but I really just want to get into the fighting game. And I like the core gameplay, but really just want to get advice to improve. Similar to what we were just saying about dealing with random behaviour that you feel is outside of your control, there's an important part of competitive play known as the growth mindset. And in short, a way of thinking about how to deal with a problem where the solution is actually within your control and not outside of your control. These opponents that are just spamming attacks on you or are just throwing you every time you get close, that's not their fault. It's easy to say that's just random behaviour, or they're getting away with things that they shouldn't be allowed to get away with. Get into the habit of tripping yourself up when you hear yourself use words like just and should, versus objectively looking at what they're doing and what you can do to actually stop that. You're going to lose a lot in fighting games, especially early on, and knowing how to think about your losses and develop your way out of them is a really big step into getting away from losing as often as you are. A lot of what currently feels outside of your control is very much inside your control, and it will require you to take on board negative criticism about what you're doing wrong. It'll take a lot of practice, it'll take a lot of lab work to actually work your way around problems. Again, like the opponent always dragon punches, do I have to be putting myself in that situation every single time? Is there something I can do to take advantage of the fact that they always dragon punch? You're still not always going to guess right every single time, but you can always know that you played it right every single time. Coming out of a match knowing that you did all of the things that you were supposed to do, even if they didn't pan out right that time, that's the kind of growth you see in fighting games. It's very small, it's very nuanced. It's not an in-your-face improvement of you jumping up the ranks immediately after learning one or two tricks. But the build-up of doing that over a long period of time and then seeing the results of that improvement when you go to like tournaments and local events and things, that's really rewarding. Next question from Adequate Kyle. I need some real help. Rank turns me into a monster. I can't control my anger. What are some tips to help me not get so angry? I'm painting myself in an LTG light and that's not who I am like at all. I'm slowly digging my own grave because I get angry and express myself in a very toxic way. No one probably likes playing me. It takes a lot of self-control to just get up and walk away from a loss. I think Korea Gaming has included it in the past. The fact that when someone's angry or upset, they take bigger risks. They feel more confident in their decision making. Probably 2 or 3 matches before the point where you get really angry, you've already started committing yourself to some of those behaviours. At that point, it's a slippery slope because at that point you are committing to those decisions and you feel like you are making the right choices and they're just not working every single time. And you're getting angrier and angrier and angrier. So try to be more present, not just in those last matches, but the whole time that you're playing so that you can feel that building up. There's a very popular book going around at the moment called The Chimp Paradox that talks about monkey brains and computer brains and stuff like that. I personally would recommend a different book called The Spirit of Kaizen by Dr. Robert Maurer. That doesn't give any of them nicknames. It explains to you that the amygdala here is a very old part of your brain that is able to switch on and off the finer and more complex thinking parts of your brain that have developed over time. This is where your animal instincts come from, this is where your fight or flight responses come from, and it can choose to take control of the rest of your thought process. I've personally found that thinking of it like that has been really helpful, and the advice that those books give you is that even though you can't choose to switch that on and off yourself, what you can do is identify when that part of the brain has taken over. There's certain behaviours you'll have, really obvious physical things like your heart rate and just that gut feel that you've got when you start making them bigger, braver decisions. But it can be other things like how conversational you are, how responsive you are when people are talking around you. So knowing what those signposts are earlier lets you know when you need to start backing away and taking action. That might be walking away from the game entirely, that might be going back to practice mode, taking a few deep breaths. Everyone's got their own different things that they can do there. But at the end of the day, your fight or flight responses are kicking in, but you need to find a way to convince your body that there is no danger in that room in that immediate moment, so that it can go back to letting go of that control of the more sensible parts of your brain that you really need in a social environment like playing a fighting game. I'm not an expert in this stuff, so I'll just link all this stuff in the description. It does mean that in the future, if you did find yourself falling into that mindset at tournaments or anything else, you've already learned how to get yourself out of that, which puts you way above most people. Last question by Godhand88. Brilliant name, brilliant game. I was wondering if anyone can give me some tips on how to properly punish people constantly forward jumping to cross me up. I know you can cross-cut DP, but I'm not very good at anti-airing with DP. Any tips are greatly appreciated. Thanks. This is one of those instances where the best advice isn't always the right advice. If you're going into individual Discords and YouTube videos to find the one right answer for a particular move, you're just not going to find it. There's the optimal answer on paper, then there's decisions made based on the situations that you're in, and that includes things like your technical ability. So yeah, crosscut TPs are great if you know when and how you should be using them, but when you're learning the game, you want the easiest to apply, the safest, and the most universal options to hand. The one everyone misses is actually just blocking. If you don't know the right answer, the best thing you can do is observe your own defense. After that, look for simpler things. You've got your crouch heavy punch, which is great. You've got normal dragon punches. One nice tactic in Street Fighter V is actually using your V-trigger activation as a freeze frame. So using your V-trigger activation to actually freeze frame and then actually queue up your own dragon punch. Here we can see what range they're at, what kind of dragon punch we can use, whether we've got the meter for the big one, or whether we want to just use a crouch and normal even. That brief freeze frame is all you need to actually work out what it is that you need to do. Of course, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities like that in a game, but as a beginner, try to make a point of using your V-trigger activation responsibly like that. And that's it for today on WTSF. I was going to frame today's video slightly differently in the style of this book by Randy J. Patterson called How to Be Miserable, where he truly optimizes how to be in an awful mood with yourself. And of course, the entire point is that you already do all of that stuff. There is definitely an FGC equivalent of that, so if you would like to see me make a more editorial style video around that concept, let us know in the comments or leave a like on this video. And if I see a spike and that kind of stuff, that'll let me know. Thanks as always to the Street Fighter Reddit community, and of course all the people that run all that stuff in the background as well. If you want to take part in these polls, you can find me at twitter.com/wiremanfgc, and now it's wiremanfgc on Twitch as well if you want to see me edit these videos, play games, talk through this stuff in a bit more depth. But yeah, get some practice in, and I'll see you next time.